Hello and welcome to Lesson 8 in how to make your acoustic guitar playing more interesting. Today we're going to be talking about basic percussion techniques for the acoustic guitar, and this is a style that has been created by people like Don Ross and Michael Hedges, all the way through to modern day players such as Andy McKee, Tommy Emmanuel. Other guitar players do this, singer-songwriters do it such as Newton Faulkner and Ed Sheeran. It's not just for instrumental guitar playing, and it can also be done with a loop pedal, so you can record it and then play other things on top of it. But for the sake of not using technology, today we're going to do all these examples completely live, and it looks way more impressive. Now, before we even start, speaking about looking impressive, I am in no way an expert in this style. This is just something I've been playing around with a lot over the years here and there, and it's a really interesting way of adding some percussion into your guitar playing if you don't have a bass player or a drummer or anyone else playing with you. If it's just you and a singer, if you're singing yourself, it's a great way of adding a bit more interest, and it always turns people's heads when you do this kind of stuff at an acoustic night. So what we're going to be doing today is we're imitating a bass drum and a snare drum from a guitar. So the first thing we have to do is we have to actually find a way of doing this on our guitars. So for a bass drum sound, we want something nice and bassy, obviously. The three areas I play around with for this is I hit the bridge, like so, and as I'm doing that, I'm usually using my thumb to hit the strings to make a chord sound, and then I'm landing the rest of my palm here and my fingers on the bridge of the guitar right there to create that boomy, bassy sound we want. The two other places that are really common to do this are down here on the lower bout of the guitar. You can get quite a bassy sound in there, especially if you close your fist. You can also get a nice bass sound around here above the sound hole, which keeps you nice and close to the strings, which we're going to need for our final example today. So you can hit that like that or like that. So we've got on the bridge, down here on the lower bout, or up here above the sound hole. That's our bass drum kind of sound. Now as for a snare drum sound, pretty much exclusively, everybody does this on the sides of the guitar, whether it's here or in my opening example, I was hitting here to gain an extra hand, to be able to do that. Those tend to be the two places. Although in our final example today, the Zach Brown Band example, we're just going to hit the strings like this. And the reason we're going to do that is because we want those strings to keep ringing out as we're hammering on and pulling off. We're going to talk more about that when we get to that example. So what we're going to do then is we're going to talk about step by step how we're going to add this to our own songs and our own playing and how we're going to do this. The very first step is to play your music and see where the gaps are, where can we add percussion, and also line that up with where would a drummer play percussion in this. We haven't got to become expert drummers to do this, we've just got to have a bit more of an awareness about what's happening rhythmically in our song. So for our very first example, we're just going to have a G chord. We're going to play on beat 1, 2, 3, 4. We've already got a gap there on beat 2 and beat 4. Now any drummer will tell you beat 2 and beat 4 is usually where the snare drum lies. So there's an easy way we can add some different percussion in there. We can add our snare drum, but like example 2, we can add in our bass drum. 2, 3, 4. And nobody likes a drummer that plays out of time, so do practice this stuff along with a metronome and count along as you play. So that's example 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We can add some more bass drums. We can go 1, 2, 3, and 4. 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 We can add in even more bass drums. We can go 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 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 So here I'm using two different bass drum techniques to bridge that gap between getting to our snare drum over here. So I'm hitting the strings for our first bass drum, and then I'm hitting here on the lower bout, and then hitting the side of the guitar. So we've got our 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. We can also add even more bass drums and come back down and hit this on the way back to our strings for our next part. So we could go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And I find when doing this that if I've just done the bass drum, I don't have time to get my hand back here to pick those strings accurately. So I either just add in an extra bass drum and hit the strings again, the same as we did on beat 1, or you can just flick with those fingers, okay? If you're not too rough, it kind of sounds similar. You can make it sound pretty similar to that first beat. So we've got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. A little bit quicker. For our final basic example, we can push that chord on beat 3, forward half a beat to the and of 2, and what that means in layman's terms is we're just going to play it a little bit earlier. It's pushed a little bit earlier, and it frees up some space for that percussion to breathe. So we could go 1 and 2, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Just build some anticipation. A little bit quicker. Already sounding more groovy. Okay, so now we've got some of those basic ideas down, we're going to look at how we can apply this to some real world situations. So for our very first study example, we're going to be looking at In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins. It's mostly a 4-bar loop around a D minor chord, a C chord, a B flat chord, and a C chord again. And especially during the second half of the song where it gets a bit more interesting, we've got the classic da-dum, 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 bum, ba, the most famous drum fill in history. If any drummers know a more famous drum fill, please tell me, because Phil Collins, Uncle Phil, did an amazing job with that drum fill. He's not really my uncle, it's no relation. But we're going to have our D minor chord for 4 beats, C for 4 beats, B flat, and then C. Very, very sparse, but straight away in our second half of the song we can make it way more interesting by adding in some of these bass drum hits. So what we're going to do is we're going to use example 5 from the previous section. We're going to adapt it a little bit and we're going to make it fit in and how fit into our chord progression, how we want to use it. So we can go D, D minor, C, B flat, and then C, again, and then full speed. Slow. For our second example, we're going to change style completely and we're going to head over to the power ballad Hello by Adele. This is really, really sparse song, but the percussion when it does come in makes it really, really fantastic and is a really, really epic build. So how I would do a cover of this song, first of all, is I would grab a capo, or as the rest of the world calls it outside of the US, a capo. If you think of The Godfather, the capo of the family was the head of the family, and what this does is it resets the head of the guitar, because this comes from Italian. So it's a capo, or a capo if you so wish. And the chords for this are E minor, G, D, C. That capo or capo on the first fret. And the timing here is a little bit different. So we get 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. We talked about in our earlier examples, in example 6, about how we can push that chord at half a beat earlier to make build a sense of anticipation. That's exactly what we're doing here in this song, or exactly what Adele did. So this is very, very simple to that previous example, but we're going to add in a 16th note bass drum pattern. And the way we're going to do this is when we're heading down here, we're going to add in a little extra hit. And the way I do this is I hold out my middle finger in, and I'm going to hit, and then I'm going to hit the thumb straight after. So this is based on a flamenco technique of getting triplets. We're going to hit with our finger, hit with our thumb, and then snare. So we get, and it just about, rather than trying to go, which is just a lot more extra effort, we're already moving our hand this way. Let's just hit the body of the guitar, hit again. So you get ba-dum, ba, and it adds that dum ba. You get 2 bass drums in a row. So very slowly for our piece here, we're going to go E minor, G, D, C, E minor, you can use either your thumb for this first chord, or you can use your fingers for these chords, whatever you prefer. I kind of do a mix of the two, and I'm not really sure why. I'm just blending them today. Why not? You can even hammer them on, apparently. play it one more time correctly, nice and slowly. Study example 3 is going to be looking at the Michael Jackson classic Billie Jean. I've rearranged this slightly, just because I'm not a huge fan of the upbeat. Don't get me wrong, it is a classic, but it's quite a dark and somber song when you look into the lyrics and with all the melody. So I moved everything down a tone and decided to use a different interval, the 6th, to add a bit more harmony and just have a low E droning bass note. For me, that just made it instantly a bit more enjoyable to play and a bit darker, and it fits the lyrics a little bit better when I tried to do a cover of this, but I can't sing to save my life, so I'm not going to be singing today, don't you worry. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be including our left hand in some of this percussion. We're going to use some of the different bass drum and snare drum techniques we talked about earlier to go through this. So when you do play this, if you have time when you're working out examples, you can actually include this left hand hitting the bottom side of the upper bout here to create some more percussion, to free up your right hand to be doing other things. So this is something Nugent Faulkner is really, really good at. So looking at step by step, I'm going to play this nice and slowly. And then beat by beat, what I'm doing here, so we've got beat 1, we're playing the chord, and then I'm using our second bass drum option of hitting up here with my thumb. And then beat 2, I'm hitting this up about here, that's the word for it, the up about the guitar to create our snare drum. So we've got 1 and 2, and so 1 and 2, and then I'm doing on the beat 3, sorry, the end of 2, I'm doing our 16th note bass drum pattern from before, followed by a snare drum, and I'm doing one final bass drum to come back down, so we get. If it's tough to get back to that chord really, really quickly, I don't always do it, but you can leave out that bass drum on the and of 4. So you go. Buys you more time, but it's more driving with that extra bass drum. So we're going to end this lesson today with an existing example. This is a song by Zac Brown Band called Goodbye in Her Eyes. Fantastic example about how to do this. Now, this took me a while to get used to because this is actually copying somebody hit for hit rather than trying to work it out and make it up yourself. So the left-hand chords are really, really easy. They're just C and F, but should have had a capo on the 3rd fret. So we're going to put that right there, or capo. Nice and in tune, good. You always got to love a guitar that stays in tune when you use a capo. So you've got C and then F. It's just 2 bars of each, but this is really, really dull without anything else, okay? So the first step with this is to play it very slowly and count out every single beat as you play. And the left hand here is going to be hammering and pulling off all of these chords as we go. So I'm going to start off by playing this nice and slowly, the whole thing, and then we're going to pick it apart beat by beat. To make sure you hit the strings. I'm going to play it a little bit quicker. This is a great left hand workout and it's really, really good for that whole right brain, left brain thing because you're doing percussion pretty much exclusively with this hand and you've got to think about all these different hits going on here. So we can start off, I'm going to go 2 beats by 2 beats at a time. So we start with our C chord and we're just going to go bass drum, with our fist, and then hit the chord, bass drum, hit the chord. Then we're going to have a snare drum, which is just going to be hitting the strings open. We're going to hammer back onto our chord. So we get, and there's one more bass drum at the end of this bar. So you get first bar, and then right there we've got this really, really interesting drum pattern. So we get the chord again, and then two bass drums, hammer. So we get chord, bass, bass, chord, and then we're going to go snare, hammer, and then pull off. So that C chord, just like that. Then we do the exact same thing for the F chord, and all we need to do for this F chord is move down a string, or you can move across so you get more notes involved. You can either do the little 3-string F here, which builds into an F major 7, or you can add in this kind of disjointed bar chord version of F, which gives you a C over F technically, or C over F major 7. It's all jazz, it all sounds nice. To me, that's just one more finger to get included, and it's actually our pinky, which is our weakest. I'm not amazingly great at hammering and pulling off with my pinky, so I kind of leave it out most of the time. Playing it one more time slowly and then quicker. Quicker. That brings us to the end of lesson 8 on our basics of acoustic percussion. Best thing to do here is to practice everything slowly and do count out loud as you do it. Hopefully no one else is watching you practice, so it means you can get away with counting 1, 2, 3, 4. And really do it that slowly. It's going to take a lot of thought because this is the first time we're going to do something completely different with each hand. If you're good at finger picking, this is like kind of beginning finger picking all over again and having to think about lots of different things to happen. So I just want to say thank you very much for following these videos. Do subscribe on YouTube, do join the Facebook group, do feel free to ask me questions in the comments. I love questions, and we've got a few more videos left in this series. So if there's anything you'd like to see in particular, please do leave a comment and let me know. Thank you very much and have a great day.